Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Tuscaloosa. I'm Ruth Van Lillian, the minister. We are a covenantal community founded on love and a common devotion to our free faith. As the days lengthen and spring peeks out from behind the robes of winter, let us welcome each other into this virtual space. We especially welcome those visiting with us today. We're so glad you are here. We invite you to connect with us through the comments or on our Facebook page or website. Our mission and ministry are to invite all into a welcoming community, to inspire in all a free and responsible spiritual journey, and to involve all in building a just and peaceful world. We join with all member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association in affirming and promoting the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Black Lives Matter.
Well, hey everybody, this is Lynn from UUCT, and April had asked me to chat a little bit today as we enter our second week of the stewardship campaign. And April asked me to think a little bit about the theme for week 2, which is thinking about how we can be more generous stewards of our resources personally and as a congregation, and how we can inspire greater generosity in others in Tuscaloosa, how our generosity can lead to greater welcome. And I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet. I think these questions about generosity are so important. I know for myself that the times when I am not feeling generous, when I am feeling stingy with my resources and with my time, that always comes from a place of fear. And so I feel stretched, I feel stressed, fearful, and I feel myself tightening up. And as I tighten up, I want to protect myself and I want to protect my resources. And so paradoxically, the thing that can make all of us, I think, feel happier and looser and liberated is practicing generosity. And I'm reading a book right now by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu called The Book of Joy. And it's been fun to read. It's about the two of them coming together for a week to just talk about joy and what joy means and where joy comes from and how we can develop joy for ourselves and spread joy to others. And one thing that they really agreed on is that joy comes from helping others. And so the Dalai Lama described that from his point of view as a Buddhist. And he said, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is remember Buddha's teaching, and in particular, the importance of kindness and compassion and interdependence. And then the Archbishop Tutu shared a concept from South Africa called Ubuntu. And the idea of Ubuntu is that a person is a person through other persons. And I love that. Doesn't that sound just like what we believe and practice at UUCT? So he says, Ubuntu says that when I have a small piece of bread, it is for my benefit that I share it with you. And I think that is the key to generosity, is that when we practice generosity, we feel happier, we feel connected with each other more so, and connected with those in the community. And then that happiness spreads and grows. And so I give you my commitment that when I am getting into that stingy place, which I know I will, because we all are humans that get stressed and get stretched and get fearful, and then we tighten up. So I give you my commitment that I'm going to try to remember this video. I'm going to try to remember talking with you, and take a deep breath and loosen up and try to give. And I hope you will do the same. And I am very grateful that we are all in this together, and look forward to our next time of being able to connect with each other. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Horn, the lay service leader for today. There's a link in our order of service in the video description below, along with other useful information. If you're viewing from a smart TV, you may not see the links and comments below. In that case, you can access the links and comments by going to our UU Congregation of Tuscaloosa YouTube channel through the YouTube app on your smartphone, tablet, or personal computer. There are a number of important announcements in the order of service, which you can see linked. Our church website and Facebook page have information about all our online activities. Also, members and friends should read all Newsnet emails and our monthly newsletter to stay updated on congregational matters. We also invite you to our online Zoom coffee hour immediately following this service so that we may join together in real time for community and fellowship. See the link in the links and comments below or in the Newsnet email. We hope to see you there. The prelude prepares us for the service.
Good morning. My name is Noah Schubert. We invite you to light a chalice of your own at home. This might be a simple candle in a bowl or something more elaborate you have made or purchased. We light this chalice as a beacon of our faith and as a reminder of our commitment to a free and responsible search for the truth and meaning. We worship together though we are at distance, by celebrating that which is sacred to us individually and collectively.
Out of the stars in their flight, out of the dust of eternity have we come. Stardust and sunlight mingling through time and through space, out of the dust of stars have we come. Earth, warmed by the sun, lit by sunlight, this is our home. Out of the stars have we come. Mystery, hidden in mystery, back through all time, mystery rising from rocks in the storm and the sea. out of the stars, rising from rocks and the sea, kindled by sunlight on earth, arose life. This is the wonder of time. This is the marvel of space. Out of the stars swung the earth, life upon earth rose to love. This is the marvel of life, rising to see and to know. Out of your heart, cry, wonder, sing that we live.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for our gathered here and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
This is the time in our service when we share with one another our joys and our sorrows, our celebrations and our challenges. If you're watching live on Zoom, you can put your particular joys and concerns into the chat now. This morning we are celebrating with Jackie, who gave birth to a beautiful baby boy as the surrogate, and we are wishing her and his dads all of our good wishes for little Arturo. Teresa's dad is back in his care facility after some rehab following a COVID infection. Sheila and David are both doing better. Now let's spend a few moments in silent meditation, and I will close us with a few words. The universe is vast, and it is easy to feel small. Let us remember that we are a part of the great mystery, that we are included in all the forces that create and uphold life, that our feelings and our experiences matter because we are each of us born with inherent worth and dignity, and we are part of a community where we celebrate and recognize that. Let us take hope and strength for the days to come from remembering those things. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be. I would light a final candle for all those things mentioned in the chat and all the joys and concerns which went unspoken today. Good morning. So glad that you could be with us today. I brought something to show you. A flower. A really big flower. Look at me holding it like an umbrella over my head. I brought this flower because I've been wondering about things. In fact, I wonder about things all the time. I bet you do too. Human beings are very curious. We are made that way. We are made to be curious, to want to know about things, to ask questions, and to wonder. So when I get my big flower out, I wonder, what would it be like to be a very small creature living under a flower? What would it be like to be a little mouse, or a praying mantis, or some other interesting insect hiding under a flower? You know, in real life, there are a few flowers that are very large. They don't look like this. But most of the flowers that we encounter are much smaller. We can hold them in our hands. We can hold bunches of them in our hands. Why should we be so big? And most of the flowers so small. I wonder about these things. But then, when I look at the mountains, why should the mountains be so big and we are so small? Big and little depend on what we're comparing, right? So the big flower makes me feel a little small, and I wonder, what would that really be like? I hope you spend your week wondering about things, asking more questions, considering possibilities. We Unitarian Universalists love to wonder. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Out of gratitude for all we have been given and all we have now, we share our resources because we love and trust each other, and because this church enriches our lives and empowers us to make our world better. We rely upon each other, members and friends, and we appreciate the payment of pledges and the generous donations to support the legacy, vision, and work of this church community. Contributions may be made by PayPal using the link below in the description, or by mailing checks to UUCT. All undesignated contributions will be divided between our Split the Plate recipient organization and our congregation. Our Split the Plate partner for this month will be shown on the screen as you're listening to this. Please mark your pledge payment to UUCT in the comments field on PayPal or in the memo line of your check. If you prefer to write a check to the selected organization, please mail it directly to the address we include in the description of this video. The offertory music will continue in this window as you open a new window to make your contributions. By the work of our hands and the generosity of our hearts, our love is made real. Thank you for these gifts.
Moon! He cried and laughed out loud. My son Liam was not quite walking yet, and as I lifted him out of the car seat and into my arms, he looked up into the night sky and pointed at the silver orb hanging in the clear air. His laugh of delight echoed the laughter of millions of human beings over the centuries, whose initial encounter with the mysteries of the universe was their first clear view of the startling beauty of Earth's nearest neighbor. We who are made of the dust of stars have an instinctive attraction to the points of light in the great black dome over our heads. Not long after that, Liam became fascinated with the automatic function of devices we all take for granted. The doors at the grocery store, which slide open when we approach, or the automatic towel dispenser in the public restroom. He called them magic doors and magic towels. For a while in his young life, they were a source of joyful wonder. Then came the button-pushing phase, when being a passive recipient of the magic was no longer enough. Now he wanted to command the mystery. It was still filled with joy and wonder, but now he had discovered the rush of power. My little boy fancied himself capable of mastering this magical world. Every available button was closely examined, and we parents struggled to keep our little sorcerer's apprentice from pushing the bright red candy-like buttons which summon emergency personnel. I realized I must create a protocol for elevator emergencies in case we were ever separated in a tall building. I told him if he ever found himself alone on the elevator, to push button number 1. Just remember, push number 1. I promised him I would be waiting on the first floor for him, no matter how long it took. Just push number 1, and he would find me. This was my early attempt to help him understand and master one of the mysteries that fascinated him so. And then it happened. We had left the dentist's office and were heading to the car when Liam expressed a need for the restroom, of course. It was next to the dentist's office, and we had already come downstairs, and my other son was getting impatient. So I decided to let my 7-year-old do a solo run in the elevator for the first time. It was only a 2-story building. He couldn't go far afield. He remembered where the restroom was. It would be okay, I told myself. So he got in the elevator. I told him to press button number 2, and the doors closed. Angus and I waited in the lobby. And we waited, and we waited, and finally I began to get concerned, and I decided we better go after him. And as I walked over to the elevator, I heard a strange sound. My mother's ears pricked up, sensing a child's distress. There it was again, a sob and a cry of frustration. "Liam!" I cried to the elevator door. "Mommy!" came the plaintive voice from far away. "Mommy, help! Push the button, Liam." "I did. It won't go," he sobbed again. I reached over and pushed the elevator button on the wall. I heard the motor and felt the vibration as the elevator came down 1 floor to the first floor. The doors opened. There was my beautiful child in tears, and he rushed into my arms, frightened and defeated, by the mystery he had so recently been in awe of. "Mommy, I pushed and I pushed the button like you told me, and it wouldn't move. I couldn't make it go." "Oh, baby, what button did you press?" "I pressed number 2, just like you told me. It worked the first time, but when I wanted to come back down, it wouldn't work." I hugged him close. "Well, sweetheart, you forgot the first rule. When you're alone in the elevator, always press number 1. I'll be waiting for you on the first floor." Of course, very shortly, Liam mastered the elevator, and he came to understand something of the mechanics of elevator doors and motion sensors and the mysteries we live with every day and take for granted. They were not really mysterious anymore, so they no longer inspired awe and wonder. Mostly, we don't notice such things unless they don't function as expected. Nothing like running into a glass door that doesn't open. Our brains are wired to gather data and to search for patterns. From within the womb, our little ears are hearing the voice of mother filtered through muscle and bone and recognizing the tones, the pauses, the inflections of her voice. When we are born, she sounds different but familiar, and babies quickly recognize that voice as Mom. From then on, every moment of our lives, we are perceiving information through our senses, comparing it to previous data for pattern recognition, and responding to it accordingly. We seek constantly to learn and to understand what we experience. Curiosity is part of our very being. It's hardwired into our DNA. When we encounter things that don't fit the previous patterns or only vaguely resemble previous experience, then we respond with greater curiosity, with wonder. We wonder, what is this? What does it mean? How does it work? Where does it come from? How do I interact with it? And the questions continue. We Unitarian Universalists understand that wonder is at the heart of our spiritual lives, our first source of inspiration for our living tradition is our direct experience with that transcending mystery and wonder. We place great value in scientific knowledge, and the wealth of that knowledge gives us important tools with which to interpret our universe and our experiences in it. However, no matter how intelligent and how knowledgeable we are, we all eventually run into questions we can't answer. There are questions no one can answer definitively. And as we encounter these questions again and again, we reconnect with the mystery and the wonder of the unknown. Now, if we are not careful, we will limit our experience of wonder only to the next scientific challenge. And this is self-defeating. If wonder is limited only to that which cannot be explained yet, then wonder is lost when explanation is discovered. It's not enough to wonder about the unexplained. The first source of our free faith is our experience of the transcending mystery and wonder, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. To reduce that experience to a cycle of question to explanation to question to explanation is to miss the renewal and the openness of our life experiences. I am a sex educator. I have thought about adding that to my business card, Reverend Ruth Van Lillian, minister and sex educator. That sounds interesting, doesn't it? Long before I was trained as a facilitator for OWL, which is, of course, our Unitarian Universalist Sexuality Education Program, and it stands for Our Whole Lives, I was asked at age 21 to fill in as an instructor for a junior high boys sex education course through a community education program. Armed with a script and a slideshow, I marched in and began fearlessly to present the basics of sexual reproduction and the physical changes of puberty while the teacher sank down in her desk in the back of the room. 30 pairs of eager and embarrassed eyes stared at me throughout. And when we finished the presentation, I took the initiative to pass out blank index cards, and I invited them to write any question they had about sex and turn them back into me. I assured them I would answer any question to the best of my knowledge. Anything. As I began to read through their questions, the teacher sank even lower behind her desk. There were, of course, a few silly, rude jokes, but most of the questions were genuine. And most of them were about the biggest mystery for pubescent boys. Could you guess what that might be? Of course, the mystery was girls. And more specifically, girls and sex. Now, no matter where these guys landed on the sexuality spectrum, the mystery of different appearance, different plumbing, different language and behavior, as the French say, différence, was the mystery. Of course, the other big mystery was themselves and their changing bodies and their thoughts and feelings about sex. Do we ever get those mysteries entirely figured out? There is no end of science about sex, literature about sex, art about sex, drama about sex. But it is still one of the greatest transcending mysteries of our lives. And we will none of us ever understand it all. What moves us more to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life? Creating life specifically is definitely a part of that mystery. Now, I took my sexuality education to a much higher level a few years later when I helped deliver my goddaughter, Kirkland. Her mother was a close friend of mine, and she and her husband asked me to be their primary support person during this most important event in their lives. I attended all the labor classes with them. I learned all about labor coaching. I kept my own little overnight bag packed. And when the day arrived, they called me and picked me up on the way to the hospital. And I literally held my friend's hand all the way from the car to the labor room. I reminded her to breathe, and she leaned against me as they injected the epidural medication. I took my place in my surgical gown by the business end of things, and through the whole process, I watched, I wondered, I was amazed as the baby crowned, as she came forth into the world. And I even cut the umbilical cord. It was an extraordinary experience. It opened me in a brand new way to the forces that create and uphold life. Understanding it all as I did, the reproductive science, the biology, the logistics, the process, the preparation, none of that made the event any less mysterious or wonderful. Rather, it all came together in a profound experience that transcended everyday life and opened me again. One of the greatest things we offer in Unitarian Universalism is a fearless blending of faith and knowledge. We really have very little use for belief that does not stand up to scrutiny, but always and only for ourselves. In other words, your beliefs are only to be processed, wrestled with, and understood by you, and mine by me. And we can learn from each other's questions, struggles, and answers, and they do not have to align with each other. We need not fear anyone's judgment. Therefore, we need not fear any knowledge which might otherwise unravel the belief system we lean upon. Everything I have learned so far about physics leaves plenty of room for the existence of a divine presence in all things. But the very same information may leave some of you utterly convinced that no such presence exists. We can all still marvel at the wonders of the universe and embrace the forces which create and uphold life. Actually, scientific knowledge and comprehension can enhance our renewal of the spirit. A friend of mine is diabetic. And one morning, some years back, he woke up and could see nothing out of his left eye. He knew a lot about diabetes by that time. And he knew that many diabetics lose their sight. He woke his wife to tell her quite calmly that he was blind in his left eye. I guess the diabetes caught up with me, he sighed in resignation. Well, I still have one eye that works. She looked at him for a few seconds and replied, "Get dressed. We're going to the eye hospital." It was a retinal bleed, they were told. And had it happened 20 years earlier, he would certainly be losing his vision in that eye. Fortunately, at the present time, the doctor now had procedures and pharmaceuticals which could repair the damage and prevent additional bleeds. My friend was astounded and profoundly grateful that he had the good fortune to be going blind at a time when modern medicine could make the blind to see. His retina specialist explained it all to him, how his diabetes caused problems in his small capillaries, which in turn ruptured in his eye, which took blood away from the portion of his retina, which meant that the light coming into his eye had nowhere to land that could send a signal to his brain. The specialist explained how the procedure would remove the debris, the medicine would restore the retinal tissue. My friend is intelligent and actually overeducated. He understood every word as well as any patient could. None of it made the experience of sight restored any less amazing. He wept from both eyes as he looked around the room after the procedure, overwhelmed with gratitude The crisis of lost vision had cracked him open to the forces which create and uphold life. And the wonder of his personal recovery moved him to a profound renewal of the spirit. The mystery of why me? Why here? Why now? Transcended the completely explainable science of diabetic retinopathy and its treatment. We are made of the dust of stars. Stars that long ago exploded in supernova, spewing their particles and gases out into the blackness. Through the vast expanse of space, and it is so vast that it's almost impossible to comprehend. Those particles and gases traveled and mingled, came together and split apart, heated and cooled, spun around in spiral galaxies and twirled off onto their own paths, and somehow they ended up here. And now, and in the air we breathe, and in the food and water we consume, the atoms and molecules of that stardust continue to make our bodies work, our brains think, and our hearts love. There is still plenty of mystery out there and in here. And it does transcend our vast knowledge. And as we continually pursue our curiosity, we are filled with wonder. May we continue to be open to the forces which create and uphold life, and thereby experience the transformation of a daily inner renewal. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.
Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity, lead me in all serenity. Fill me with a vision, clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
Please read with me the words at the bottom of your screen. As we extinguish this chalice flame, let us remember that we carry the light within ourselves, which brings healing to a broken world and hope for the days ahead.
Siblings and kindred, we are made of the dust of stars. We are filled with wonder, and we are part of the transcending mystery. May you find renewal of spirit in the days ahead. Let us go in peace. Amen.